What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome to another episode of the CheckDown. I'm here again with my great host, J Mick. How you feeling, bro?
Nothing, man. Another weekend closer to football. It's about to be June, so I mean football right around the corner.
Pop, how you feeling?
Mm, I'm good. I'm good. Ready to continue on with this list.
Yeah, man. It's getting intense. So you know how we started off every week, man. We're gonna give y'all a replay of the previous list. So we're gonna start off with the first part of the list. Where we got the Panthers at 32, the Broncos at 31, Patriots at 30, Giants at 29, Commanders at 28. No complaints here. It was a smooth transition. You know what I mean? It was a one of those where things kind of fell in order. But as we said, these are preseason power rankings, so I mean it's nothing solidified for your team. As J Mick said, we one week closer, so soon. You know what I mean? We probably be back on this road before we know it, making another top 32. We got the Titans at 27, the Cardinals 26, the Vikings at 25, Raiders at 24, Chargers 23. Uh, wasn't really much here. I mean, like we said before, man, we think the Chargers have the one upside that most of these other teams don't have, which is a franchise quarterback. They locked and loaded, man. They could be way high on this list with some competent offense around Justin Herbert. I think they can make a good run. Uh,
Oh
for
yeah.
the last for the last week, we had the Saints at 22, the Bears at 21, Seahawks at 20, Jags at 19, Colts at 18, Falcons at 17. Boy, they do not like the Falcons at 17. I swear. Oh God. Hey, listen, that's the most pushback we got. Like people wanted like pretty
The
much.
Falcons, they might be good this year, man. People might have to warm up to that possibility, man.
Yeah, they was a little pushbackish on 17. They thought maybe the Falcons should be more 20. Uh, a lot of people didn't think the Bears should have been as high. But I think the Bears, to me, got one of the best rosters on this list. Like they got a good roster, they got a good defense, they got a good offense. The problem is, I guess, the rookie quarterback. But I thought they had a pretty stout movement. I know Pop. I think she got sold that the Seahawks probably should move up.
Yeah, I was with Dre when we initially talked about this power rankings. I like the Seahawks, but after the discussion on the pod last weekend, yeah, I do think the Seahawks should be a little higher. Um, Maybe 18 instead of at 20, but I do like the potential of the Seahawks team. But
Uh,
like,
Good morning, Bina. Saints egregiously high. High Pop.
anyways, um, love you too, Gina. Love you too.
Oh man, so we're gonna get on the road, man. I mean, these are the previous lists. So we're gonna start off with good old 16, man. We got the Pittsburgh Steelers at 16. Uh Somebody asked me the other day what was their greatest improvement. Had to be quarterback. I mean, Kenny Pickett is worse than both quarterbacks they got. So that's a grave improvement. Um, they always pretty much got like good defense, with TJ Watt on there. They got Minka Fitzpatrick. They got a few guys out there that can, solidify some things. They brought in Patrick Queen to try to solidify their linebacker room. Uh, Cam Hayward is their D tackle. So they keep a solidified defense. Offensively, they got some pieces that have untapped potential. But we all believe George Pickens could be one of those guys. We seen splashes of it with Kenny Pickett, even though Kenny Pickett wasn't really able to get in the ball They brought in Arthur Smith, which to me is going to help Najee Harris. And what's the back we got? I can't remember the back.
Jalen Warren.
Jalen Warren.
It's going to give Jalen Warren and company the opportunity to be able to get some more rushes and probably some better sets instead of we just going to run downhill. I think Arthur Smith will be able to tap into both potentials of what both running backs do well and get them an opportunity to do something. And it'll be a little easier on the quarterback. You're not gonna have to sit back there and throw it 30 or 40 times to try to get wins. So I think that's why I voted for them to be at 16. I think they have a good roster. I think their coaching is obviously always pretty much decent, even though it might be a little skewed because he hasn't had losing seasons in a long time. But I had them there because I think the upside, if Russell Wilson can give you what he gave you last year from the Broncos, I think you got a team that could potentially be pushing for another playoff berth again.
I agree with that assessment. Also, they added Roman Wilson, Michigan. That's their rookie wide receiver. They added Peyton Wilson, who they got as a fourth rounder, I believe. He has potential to help that linebacking core. That's a really good team. My thing is this though: which Russ are we gonna get? Are we gonna get the, Russ that was showing out in Seattle, or are we gonna get the Russ that we saw like kind of fail in Denver? That's the question. The Steelers, I think, are in a great position. They don't have too much money invested into the quarterback position, and if Russell doesn't work out, you have Justin Fields. Justin Fields doesn't work out, then they can move on next year and not really be hit too hard on the cap. I think they've done things to solidify that offensive line. And while I didn't like Arthur Smith as a head coach, I think he'll be a great offensive coordinator for the Steelers. And I think he'll create the sets that will be needed for Russ to thrive in that offense. And also, I think will help benefit the running backs that they had that uh, prove that, they have like a solid 1-2 punch back there with the Steelers. So it's really just which Russ, if Russ even wins the starting job there, presumably. So, but the Steelers definitely can rise higher in the rankings than they're currently positioned at.
I mean, for me, like the Steelers, like I mean, like obviously, like my team got a long history with the Steelers over the last decade or 2 decades or 3 decades, whatever you want to call it. I mean, we played them a lot. So defensively, they're always going to be good. So defensively, I don't even really worry about that. Offensively, I mean, the running backs they have those. I'll give them that. Wide receiver is a little sketchy though, because I mean, like a lot of people don't like Deontay Johnson, but Deontay Johnson's a solid wide receiver in this league. And so with the poor quarterback play, he didn't
They
necessarily
traded him.
score. Yeah, they traded him, so he's not there anymore. So I mean, but people's issue with him was he didn't get a lot of touchdowns, and you could put the blame on him and the quarterback position because I mean, over the last 2 years, I mean, it just wasn't good. And honestly, like I'm not the biggest Russell Wilson fan. I didn't mind the move when they traded for him, but then when they extended him before he played the game, I had a problem with that because you at that point you'd only seen him in one system in Seattle where he was successful, and then in Denver he was a dumpster fire. Like it wasn't working. And so I mean, I don't think that he's not going to win the starting job. Like I think he's going to win the starting job. I mean, because it got to do with the draft compensation because of Justin Fields. I think it's Justin Fields plays 50% of the snaps, then that 6th-round pick I think it turns to like a third or a fourth or something like that. So keeping that in mind, I just don't think Justin Fields is ready. I don't think he can beat out Russell Wilson in training camp. Like, I mean, I could be proven wrong, who knows? But I mean, I get it that Russell Wilson's better than he's better than Kenny Pickett, but he's still like, I mean, to me, like he's a fringe top 15 quarterback. Like I might maybe like he might be like 17, 16, 17, 18, somewhere like that. But I did like what they did in the draft. They got the wide receiver out of Michigan, Roman Wilson, which a lot of people were high on. So that was a good move. They also drafted Troy Fatanu out of Washington in the first round, who's gonna Some say he's going to play tackle. Some say he's going to play guard. So you kind of got to see where that goes. I'm not sure exactly where he's going to be playing. And they also drafted Zach Frazier out of West Virginia, like the center. So like they really decided to address the trenches. You got to see that's going to work for them. But unfortunately, I think they're going to finish last in their division. The thing is, if the thing about that division is the Ravens right now are, they're at the top. And then you got the Browns, who the Browns were really good last year. So you got them, and then you have the Bengals, who the Bengals finished last year. But even with Burrow being hurt, I think he missed like the last 6-7 games, and they still almost made the playoffs. So I just don't know. Like I just don't know how they don't end up in last place. And that's not saying that's not saying they're gonna have 6 wins, because the last place finisher in that division could probably have 8-9 wins, which is not it's not a bad season. So
Yeah, I agree. That's a tough division to try to get through, and that's a tough conference in general. But that is going to be a tough division. So it could easily be the Steelers in last place there. I also think potentially the Bengals might be back in last place. It just really depends on the health of Joe Burrow when it comes to that situation.
Dre, what's happening, man?
What's good, man? I got a couple minutes. I figured I'd pop on for a few minutes. I see y'all talking about the Steelers right now, number 16. Yeah, I like what the Steelers did in the draft if it works out for them. I think uh, I think they could have a good season. I could see them potentially being even better than 16. But right now, it's just we got to see if everything's gonna gel. If Russell Wilson or Justin Fields is gonna work out, and if those offense line additions they made are going to come to fruition. And I think I mentioned it already, but I would like to see them add another receiver somehow. But yeah, I like what they have in Roman Wilson. To me, he kind of reminds me of Sterling Shepard a little bit, and I like Pickens, so I think that offense could be good. I mean, they still got Darnell Washington too, who he's a physical freak, and they got Fryermuth over there, so I could see them running a lot of 12 personnel, running the ball, and trying to get the ball to those two playmakers they got.
According to our rankings, y'all said they'll be fourth. According to our rankings, that's the first AFC North team on the list, anyways, right now.
You
So
sure?
technically speaking, we have them in fourth. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, brother.
Yeah, we haven't
Oh,
ranked the Browns, Bengals, or Ravens yet.
okay,
Nope,
okay,
that's the first one. This the first one. So technically speaking, we have them in fourth place. So
okay.
yeah. All right. So since Drake here, he said he only got a little while. We gonna move right along then. Number 15, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Uh, I think they solid, man. You know, they got a good 1-2 punch in their receiving room right now with Godwin and Evans, and then they got Plummer coming off you know a good season, so he probably gonna be able to fight for that wide receiver 3 spot. Baker Mayfield definitely played well last season for them. They have a solid offensive line, a solid run game. Defense is always pretty well, but they did lose a few pieces on the defensive end. So we want to see how you actually combat those losses in even if you say a Devin White wasn't impactful to the team, or uh Carlton Davis wasn't an impact on the defense. Those guys played to me significant roles last year. But they always have a great defense, because they have a good defensive coordinator as a head coach. He keeps that defense in line. The offense last year to me was very efficient. They were able to go out there and do some things. To me, I think they paid Baker, right? They paid Baker. They extended Mike. So you got guys that's going to be, coming in with a little something to prove this season. Coming off of a good season last year, that they might feel a little upset about how it ended. I think they, felt like they had a chance in that second playoff game, but a couple things went the opposite way. So we got the Buccaneers at 15 because I think the roster improved on the offensive side, but probably I think they can weather the storm on the defensive side. So we gonna see what Baker Mayfield we get this season also, because somebody was pointing out that he has one good season and one off season and one good season. I didn't really look into it a lot, but I do remember that season after they went to the playoffs. Wasn't that well, but I think they added OBJ if I'm not mistaken, and his play when OBJ was on the field was not great. He likes to force the ball to him or whatever. So um, they got a pretty good offense, and I hope they ready for the week we play them, because I need my get back, brothers.
You know, the one thing that kind of concerns me about the Buccaneers is Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield last year had Dave Canales, and Dave Canales, we all know, has the track record of bringing the best out of quarterbacks, right? So with him not being there this upcoming season, and I think I asked Fletch about this the other day, and he said that's probably his main concern is the offense this season because I mean we saw Gino. Gino didn't have a terrible season, but he didn't have a great season last year. That was first year without Dave again. Now we're gonna have to see Baker this year without Dave. So is he gonna continue to play at the level of last season, or is there gonna be a fall off? Because if there's a fall off, I could see the Buccaneers being a lot worse than the 15 spot. Well, not a lot worse, but I could see them being closer to 20. But if Baker continues to play at the level he's playing at, I could also see them moving up this list during the season. So to me, it's just dependent on Baker. I mean, they filled their main hole on the offense line, which was the center position, and in my opinion, they probably got the best center in the draft, Graham Barton. Now, Graham Barton didn't play a whole lot of center in college, but when he did, he played it at an elite level. And I remember during the draft process reading some things about Graham Barton, and a lot of people that know a lot more about these prospects than I do were projecting him to be a center in the league, and they think that he has the potential to be the best out of this class. So if that works out for them, they add a guy like Jalen McMillan. Um, I don't remember everybody they drafted, but I remember those two just off the top of my head. I think that they could have a really good season, but it's all dependent on their quarterback play.
Skull, what's good, brother? Pushing P, what's happening? Philly. I don't even remember what we argued about on Wednesday, fam. This isn't Philadelphia Eagle business. This is all 32 business. So we ain't gonna talk about family business podcast, all right? Whatever I was mad at you about, we ain't gonna bring it up on you, okay? I kind of do remember what we was arguing about too. I do not. Now that I said it. Go ahead. Y'all can pop.
Yeah. For me, I don't think they necessarily had big losses on the defensive side of the ball. Devin White has been on the decline with that team for a cool minute, so I think it was just time for him to find a new home. The fit just wasn't right anymore with Tampa Bay, but I think I don't really have too many concerns about the defense because Todd Bowles always finds players that can fit his scheme. Um, I think McMillan is a great addition to that wide receiver core that have over there. I think he'll mesh well with what they're trying to do. I think they have I think they got the running back out of Bama,
Uh,
McMillan,
yeah, they
McClain.
got Jace. Yeah, they got Jace McMillan.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
got the running back
No,
from
no,
over
no, they
there.
didn't. No, they
No,
didn't.
No.
That was the
Falcons.
Falcons.
Oh, it
Oh,
They
it
was the
was the Falcons.
Falcons.
It was the
Oh
Falcons.
wow.
They always getting a damn running back.
they
Yeah,
drafted
but
Bucky Irvin out of Oregon. That's what they got.
oh yeah, Bucky. I think
I
Bucky
like
would be
Bucky.
nice for them behind Rashad White. I think that would be nice. I think Graham Barton does solidify that line. It They kind of had players playing out of position that played well for them, but they were playing out of position. I think Graham Barton helped solidify a strong offensive line that the Buccaneers have consistently had over the last few years. And can Baker replicate what he did last season? I think that's the best Baker we've seen since he was with the Browns. And can he replicate that season again? And I think that's the question that people have about the team moving forward.
Hey, shout out to my boy Philly Mike, man, of Philly Talk Podcast. If y'all looking for some good podcast content, man, type in, man, Philly Talk Podcast. Go ahead, J Mitt. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, what bothers me about Tampa Bay is kind of what everybody says Baker Mayfield, and not necessarily him, but it's the fact that Dave Canales, I mean, took the job in Carolina. And the thing about Dave Canales is if you look at Dave Canales over the last 2 years, like 2 years ago he was coaching Seattle when Geno had his best year, and then he coached last year with Baker, and Baker had one of, not gonna say it's his best year, but it was one of his better years that he's had because I'm that a 1 year had in Cleveland, and when they went to the playoffs and they beat the Steelers in the playoffs, that was a pretty good season he had too. So so with David Canales being there last year, he had a really good season, and now Dave is not there. So that kind of does concern me a little bit to kind of see how he's going to perform. I'm not saying that Baker can't be good, but that is a point of contention for me. And then like their draft for the most part, like I like their draft. Like I liked Graham Barton. I mean, I mean he was a really good player at Duke. They got a Chris Braswell in the second round. They got my boy Tyke Smith, safety out of Georgia. The Jalen McMillan pick for me, like I wanted to draft Jalen on the Patriots, but for me, for the Tampa Bay Buck, it seems like it's a little bit of kind of redundant because to me, it seems like him and Chris Godwin, they kind of play the same. So, so I'm just not sure how that's really going to work, or is it just their plan that once Chris's contract is over, that's who his replacement is going to be. Because I mean, because they got Evans as their ex, which I mean, he's going to be there for the foreseeable future till he retires. And then they drafted Kid Palmer last year, and he's like their deep threat. So yeah, so like Jalen McMillan and Chris Godwin, like they kind of, to me, they do the same things. So I got to kind of see how that looks. And it's like, yeah, like Devin White, like a lot of Buck fans don't really love Derek White. I mean, not Derek, but I mean like, and Devin White. But I mean, like with him gone, you got to see how that looks. So, but I mean, their defense, I'm not really worried about their defense. Like I think their defense would be just fine, and I think people kind of it's. I mean, for the Bucks, it's like an every year thing where like people write them off, and because I mean, last year like people were picking the Saints because the Saints got Derek Carr. This year, people are picking the Falcons because the Falcons got Kirk Cousins, and it's just like they're the one consistent thing in that division. And I mean, for the past like 3 years, so I just think people are kind of writing them off. And I mean, they might win the division again. I mean, and I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be interesting for them because Baker Mayfield is probably the biggest question mark. Uh, and I think you're right too, Jamie. I think Jason McMillan is more when Chris Godwin leave, you'll take his spot. So I can see him taking a lot of the valuable reps uh later down the stretch of the season or whatever. But I don't think he's gonna be wide receiver 3. I think he'll be like 4. He'll come in and give Chris Godwin breaks when necessary, and he'll be learning the offense behind those guys. What's good, Cool Cat? Shout out to Cool Cat Connor, man, of multiple podcasts like me. I ain't gonna even name all of this. All right, man. This probably where it's gonna get shaky at now. This probably where you're gonna hear people complain a little bit. But we're gonna start, man. This will get shaky, man. At number 14, we got the Miami Dolphins. Uh yeah, I'm gonna let somebody else start. I'm gonna go second. I go second.
I'll start. The Dolphins. I actually got a lot of questions still about the Dolphins. I think they're here based off of that offense. I don't believe in the defense. I mean, on offense, you got all the firepower in the world, right? They got a damn near they got a track team on offense. You got Waddles, you got Tyreek, you got those three running backs. All of them run under 4.4. Like they got a lot of talent. You got OBJ wide receiver 3, so the talent is there. You got the offensive line as a head coach. You got Tua who played at a high level last year, so the offense is fine. The defense kind of worries me. I got to see what that defense is going to be this year. I I could definitely see the Dolphins falling down this list. by the time that we get to maybe, I'll say week 5 of the season. I could see them being a lot further down on this list just based off of that defense alone. They lost a lot. They got people coming back off of injuries that those guys typically don't play at their normal levels year one off of those injuries. So I don't know. They lost probably their best defensive player on that defense. He's over there with the Raiders now. So the defense kind of worries me. But the offense, I think the offense is going to be great. And they're just going to have to outscore people. It's going to have to be a lot of shootouts. You're going to have to consistently, week in and week out, outscore teams. But I'll say this: I think we're gonna see what the Dolphins are really made of this year with that schedule they have down the stretch. They got a lot of games where they're on the road in the cold, and they're gonna have to show up in those games if they want this season to be any kind of success. So we'll see with the Dolphins, man.
Okay, so I don't they I think they got a new defensive coordinator in Anthony Weaver. I think this is only his like if I think it's his second time being like a part of the defensive coordinator, but I think this is his first time being the sole defensive coordinator of a defense. I think he had partial duties with the Texans at one point. I think like 2019. But like that's a big question mark, man. You bringing a guy that's first year coordinator, he gonna be pretty much getting his first first starts and really putting together a team. So like, yeah, the offense is a track field, but you got a bunch of the same guys too. Like you got like what 3 running backs? They all kind of the same. I think Waller and Tyreek are close to being the same as far as like the type of receiver they are. Uh, they brought in OBJ, who's a little. I guess you could say he's a little bit different than the other two. But it's more because of age and a little bit of attrition and injuries, which has changed it up. Um, but yeah, you're gonna have to go on the road, man. It's gonna get cold. It's gonna get you got some of them December, them January games. It's gonna be cold, man. And if you can't perform in the cold, if you can't get wins in the cold, I don't know what you're gonna do. And they still got some question marks about paying their guys. Like I think they still got to pay Tua. Uh, I don't know if Tua is showing up to OTAs at this point. I heard he was supposed to. I don't know if that changed. I didn't look into it, but
He showed
yeah,
up.
he
He showed up, but he definitely turned down an offer already.
okay. Yeah, I know he turned down one. I know he turned down one. I know they was trying to renegotiate. I think that deal was 4 years, 50 million a year, if I'm not mistaken. It would have been it would have put him at like 6 or 7 as far as quarterback pay annually. Yeah, I know Weaver came from the Ravens. But it's a transition, man, being that coordinator compared to being a defensive line coach. Like, yeah, you've been in rooms with some of the greats, but how does it transition on the field? And that's a big question mark for me. They probably would be higher if Vic Fangio was still there. In honest opinion.
Yeah, the Dolphins addressed the defensive position. They got Chop Robinson in the first, and then they drafted Muhammad Kamara out of Colorado State um, in the fifth round. I don't know if those are rookies that we're expecting to come and make an instant impact. And I just don't know. The health of that D line concerns me. They lost some key pieces of their defense through free agency this year. Like that concerns me. And talking to Dolphins fans, they just don't see the same issues that I'm seeing as a rational person looking at their team. They think their defense, they didn't lose pieces. They think that they brought in pieces to replace major losses and they think they're going to be fine. And I just don't see that. It's like what y'all said with the new defensive coordinator, with the loss of Christian Wilkinson, with players coming back from major injury. I just don't see that defense making a huge impact to start the season. Maybe they can heat up later on, but this season I just don't see it for the Dolphins. I do think that offense is great. Like I think you have great, a really good wide receiver core. Your running backs are outstanding. That offensive line is pretty good. Uh, but it's just that defense I think is kind of holding the Dolphins back, and which has them ranked where they are currently.
Real
So
quick, because I gotta dip back out. But I do want to say I forgot to mention Robert Hunt is also now a Panther, and that's definitely gonna hurt them on that offensive line too. And they had some
Oh
injuries
yeah.
last year. They weren't really healthy on the line, so that could
Yeah.
that could bring some problems too. But hey, shout out to y'all. Shout out to everybody that's watching. Uh, I'm gonna tap in with y'all whenever I can, man. But I gotta get back to the family stuff real quick, man.
All right, bro.
uh,
All right.
yeah, so I was just gonna touch quickly on the dog. Obviously, they in my division. For me, like losing Robert Hunt, like to me, Robert Hunt was their best guard. So I mean, you lost your I mean best guard. Um, and then I mean for them, I mean like Isaiah Wynn has been pretty good for them. I mean, and the Terry Armstead when he's on the field, he's been good for them. To me, my question is their right side of the line, like their right guard and right tackle. I mean, I know they're champion and Austin Jackson. So I just got to see how he looks, and I got to see how Robert Jones, who's going to be replacing Hunt at right guard, kind of got to see how those guys look. But it's pretty much what everybody said. Offensively, I mean, they're stout. I mean, like I mean, obviously they have Tyreek Hill, they have Jalen Waddle, and then they have I mean Odell as their third wide receiver. They also signed Janu Smith, who he had a really good season last year for the Falcons. So they're solid there. I mean, running back position, yeah. I mean, they're really solid there. I mean, they have Mostert, they have A Chain, and then they drafted Jalen Wright, and they still have Jeff Wilson Jr. So offensively, my only question is their right side of the line. I mean, other than the right side of the line, I mean, I think their offense is just fine. Defensively is where my issue is because Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb were both got hurt last year. And so it's kind of
Are
hard for
either
me.
one of them gonna be prepared for week one?
I, I,
Don't know.
Dolphin fans been saying one of them would be, but you really don't know until you start picking. I mean, you get in the training camp, you get in the preseason games, and then you'll see at that point. Um, so I mean, you have that so you have those two edges that you don't know if they're going to start the season, and they had. I think one of them had Achilles, the other had an ACL, and it's like the Achilles thing at that position, at the edge position, it's just hard. It's hard to come back and really play well the very next year. I think I forgot which one has the Achilles, but whatever one, I wouldn't expect that guy to have a great season this year. Like I would expect his real bounce back to be like the next season, which will be the 2025 season. And then their secondary, Javon Holland, who I'm super high on. I mean, obviously Jalen Ramsey's there. I'm kind of high on him. They signed Jordan Poyer from the Bills. I talked to Bills fans. They believe Jordan Poyer doesn't really have a lot left. That's why the Bills decided to cut bait with him. And then they signed Kendall Fuller, who's going to be playing their left corner. So I mean, that's what both sides of the ball looking like. And then they obviously drafted Chop. Patrick Paul's a guy that I wanted, but he's more of a developmental left tackle. So I don't think he's really going to be playing this year a lot for them. That's going to be in the future. Muhammad Kamara, like he's another guy that needs to be developed. So I mean, you might get a sack or two from him now, but I just like he he's going to need more. He's going to need more time. So I just
Which
not,
one
I'm
had the
not.
Achilles? Which one is ACL? Which one's Achilles? Isn't Chubb the ACL and the other one the Achilles?
Yeah, I think Phillips was the Achilles and Chubb was the ACL. The ACL, I'm
Phillips
not.
caught that Achilles at the Jets, right?
Yeah, I think so. So like the ACL doesn't concern me as much. I mean, like you can come back. I mean, it's probably going to take him like maybe by week 8. Bradley Chubb will be back to who he is. But for Jalen Phillips, who tore his Achilles, I think that's the same. I think that's the same injury that Von Miller had. And Von Miller, he came back last year. Didn't get a sack at all. And I mean, I understand he's older,
Well,
but that's kind of what the Achilles situation can be. It's like
Brandon Graham have it in 2021. He came back and had a pretty good 2022, but he had a horrible 2023.
yeah. So it's just like I mean, different players do different things. Like I just don't know. And then like drafted Chop and you drafted Kamara, and I mean Chop. I think Chop could step in, but I just think he also needs a little bit of to be developed as well. Not as much as Kamara does. But we got to see. And then they also drafted two more wide receivers. They drafted Malik Washington, who a lot of people are high on. And they just drafted Taj Washington in the 7th round out of USC. So we kind of got to see how that goes. Like offensively, I don't think anybody's worried. I think the Dolphins will be a top 5 offensive team. No question about it. I think most people's concern is their defense. And I mean, like they lost Christian Wilkins, literally their best defensive player. And so he was the one, he was the one, run stopping and, doing a bunch of stuff for them. And I don't know how you're going to replace that. You just got to see how it looks. Like I'm just not that high on their defense. So
Xavier Howard gone too, right? They cut him, right?
Yeah, they cut him. I think that's why they brought in Kendall Fuller. So, and I mean, the thing about Kendall is he's not a bad corner. Like he's a pretty good corner. Like he's not like top 10 or anything, but I mean he can still give you some kind of like play at that like corner position. So I mean their secondary. I'm not as concerned about their secondary. I'm more concerned about their front 7.
Yeah, that D line has me concerned. I think they also lost Van Ginkel this season as well during the offseason. So
he left for free agency. I think he went to the Vikings. I think.
Yeah. So that's my concern is that D line for the Dolphins. There's a lot of questions there at that position for them. And like to your point, J Mick, I don't think we should expect 2 rookies to come in and make an instant impact. Like Chop, he does need some work, and Kamara is a raw talent. Like he has intangibles that you would want, but he just needs to be coached up and have it be put all together.
So I think with those injuries, man, they ain't gonna have no choice though. I think those young guys gonna have to play early because I don't think Phillips gonna be there for the start of the season. He hurt that Achilles late into the season. I don't think he'll be back to start the season. And Chubb, I think he's gonna probably need to be put on a little count until he can get his legs back under him. Because I mean, he coming off an ACL, and you don't want to just rush him back on the field and say we're going out here, we're gonna play you 90% of the snap. I think he'll be somewhere probably to 60 to 75% of the snaps, and those young guys are gonna have to pick up the rest.
Yeah. I mean, so the thing is, like like those 2 rookies, excuse me, they're gonna play. It's just just gonna be their impact. That's my question.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like the situation the Dolphins are in, I don't think they have any choice but to play them guys. So, I mean, because they're quite thin at the edge right now. Like unless if Jalen Phillips and Chubb actually start the season, then it might not be the case. But I think one of those guys is going to get put on the PUP list. Like I can't see both of them starting week 1.
Yeah, I'm trying to see now if they have any updates on his injury because. But we can move on to the next one. At number 13, another one from your division, the Jets. Arguably the best defense in your division right now, right?
You could say that. I mean, it's a battle between them and the Patriots. So
I'm gonna let you cook, bro. Go ahead.
The Jets. So I mean, a lot of people high on the Jets because obviously the Jets last year, like they had Rodgers for 4 snaps, and then he also like we're dealing with another guy that tore his Achilles. So you have that. I mean, the defense was really good last year, man. I mean, like they were top 5 defense last year. I mean, even with a really bad offense, and the team still won 7 games. Draft wise, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of the Jets franchise, but I mean, like looking at their draft, like they had a really good draft. I mean, like they drafted Olu in the 1st round, which leading into the college football season last year, like a lot of people had Olu as the number 1 tackle, and then throughout the season he kind of dropped to the to the number 2 tackle in the draft. They in the 3rd round they traded up and they got Malachi Corley, who I've been high on for the longest time. I've been high on him all college football season last year. I've been high on the kid. And he's going to fit them well because he's going to be playing in the slot. Like, they're going to have Garrett Wilson and they're going to have Mike Williams playing the outside, and he's going to be in the slot. So I think he's going to fit well. I think he's going to play well. And then the next pick was Braylon Allen, who's going to be, the second running back, and who's going to, spell
Brees Hall.
Yeah, Brees Hall. And like with Brees Hall and Braylon Allen, like that's a good 1-2 punch, man. You can't say nothing bad about that. They drafted Jordan Travis, who's going to be there. Like they're going to try to develop him into their next quarterback, obviously, because Aaron Rodgers is not going to play forever. And so like that was pretty much their draft. I like their draft. I like what they did in free agency. Like they signed the tackle out of left tackle out of Dallas, which was an improvement for them, and they traded with
Tyron. They got Tyron Smith, didn't they?
Yeah, Tyron Smith, and then they traded for one of the Ravens tackles as well. So that kind of they're trying to shore up their line. Their offensive line was their main issue last year. My only issue with the offensive line now is that the two tackles, like they're over 30. So you kind of got to see how that goes. Smith tends to get hurt, tends to miss a couple games every year. But even if that was to happen, they could always slide. Say Smith is out week 5 and week 6. They drafted Olu, so they can do that, or they could play Olu at the guard. Because people said he's capable of playing both. So he's specifically a tackle, but he can probably play guard as well, possibly. So you have that. You have the defense. I expect the defense to be at least a top 10 unit, if not a top 5 unit again. And I think offensively, the same question as the question last year. Like it's going to be the quarterback and coming off that Achilles, and can that offensive line stay healthy? And if all those things happen, they're going to be a really good team.
Yeah, I agree. The concern is you have a 40-year-old quarterback coming off of Achilles injury. Like that's a concern to have. Will he be able to stay healthy throughout the season? I think they did surround him with good talent at the wide receiver position. I think that running back group with the addition of Braylon Allen that's a good 1-2 punch. Have they solidified that O-line to protect their quarterback though? And that's what we need to see coming out of training camp, and even in the first preseason games and even the first game of the season. Like, have they fixed this issue? Because if that line doesn't hold up, I don't know if A-Rod is going to be able to last throughout that season.
I think the liability of the line got moved off of, though, which he came to my team. I don't understand. But Mekhi Becton puts a liability on that left side. He gone.
Yeah. So we'll see what the health of that line is. But if A-Rod can come back healthy off of that, I think that's a team that with better quarterback play, we would possibly see them in the playoffs last year. Like, I think that was their biggest issue. That defense, I have no questions about that. That's a defense that's going to play and play hard. It's really just the quarterback position that was the biggest issue for the Jets. And I think with a healthy A-Rod, they can make a push, especially with the AFC East. Like, we don't really know who's going to be the division winners. I don't think it's a clear cut between the Bills and the Dolphins at this moment right now. I just don't see it.
I think as far as the AFC East, this is probably arguably the best defense in that division or whatever. Especially defensive line. They deep, heavy rotation. They got some pretty good linebackers. The two safeties they have, to me, you could put them two on any team and it changes the defensive the output. So I think defensively they're in a good spot. I agree with everybody else with the 40-year-old quarterback coming off an Achilles injury. It doesn't really hit. Like, yeah, it's Aaron Rodgers, but the Achilles at 40 stopped Kobe. It can stop anybody. If I seen Kobe barely be himself afterwards, I believe anybody can be affected by it. And you asking him to use that Achilles technically for 17 weeks in the regular season, then you asking him to win 3 playoff games on that same leg. Like, I don't know how long he lasts if he's not upright a lot of the time. If he starts getting sacked again and things of that nature, if that offensive line isn't what it seems to be. Yes, you went out and got a few pieces to solidify and give you some depth and give you an opportunity to see some different things in camp to see if you can put together a better stance up front, but you don't really know what it's like until week one, until you snap the ball. Because I'm pretty sure going through training camp and OTAs last year with Aaron Rodgers, I mean, he was there for training camp. He wasn't there for OTAs, but going through training, I'm pretty sure he was okay with how the offensive line was. I don't think he thought 4 snaps later he would be uh, going into a 12-month recovery. You know what I mean? So um, I think he in a good spot. I just don't think people should be as high on the situation as it is. I think 13 is a very valuable spot for the Jets. Yes, you have a good defense. Hopefully that defense can keep some of the pressure off of Aaron Rodgers so he doesn't have to do uh, Superman activities on the field. And you got two good running backs in Braylon Allen and Brees Hall that you can really get some things done. You can have a powerful running game and not have to give it to Aaron Rodgers 40, 50 times a game and say win it. So I do like that they have a deep receiver room too. My question is, who are they gonna get rid of? Because they got like 6 or 7 receivers again, like they had last year. Uh, I think it comes down to like I think Alan Lazard is probably the odd man out for me.
Yeah, I don't think Aaron Rodgers is gonna let like them cut, Lazard. I mean, like him and Lazard are pretty good friends, man. I don't I don't see that happening, man. I don't know about the 6 wide receiver thing because they got Wilson, they got Mike Williams, they got Malachi Corley, then they got Xavier Gibson, who's like their kind of like return guy. Then they have Alan Lazard, and then they got their undrafted free agent last year, Jason Brownlee.
Oh, they I forgot what's the name ain't have a second deal, did he? Cobb. He only had a 1 year.
Yeah, I think Cobb was only on a 1 year deal anyway. So
Yeah.
That's my mistake. I knew they had the UEFA, but I thought Cobb was also included in that. But I thought he had a 2 year deal like Lazard did.
Nah, he's had a 1 year. So I mean, unless they start the season and they think that they need Randall Cobb, I don't think he's going to be on the Jets this year.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah.
Now they might have had more last year. Then they probably had like 8 or 9 last year. But they was trading off receivers like left and right. They sent Elijah Moore up out of there. They got rid of the one that went to the Cardinals, didn't he? Didn't they trade somebody to the Cardinals?
Oh yeah, their like draft pick. I forgot the guy's name, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, they traded like 2 or 3 wide receivers last year, so I thought they had more, but Randall Cobb not there. Well, maybe I still would say Alan Lazard. I don't like him. He just big.
I don't think Alan Lazard is good. I just think that him and Aaron Rodgers are really cool. So if it's a question between him and another receiver, like they're probably gonna keep Alan Lazard. I mean, that's just the reality of it. So
all right, so we're gonna pivot to number 12, man. The next AFC North team. We got the Cleveland Browns. Listen, this team here at home is probably the best team in the league defensively. Swear to you, but on the road, after looking at the splits, it's bad. So this is one of them teams. Like if they don't fix that, I can see them being moved back on this list. But they have another big question mark. With also a big dollar sign. I think he's owed like 63 million this year, as far as pay. Deshaun Watson. A lot of the people that were in on Deshaun Watson was looking for 2019, 2020 Deshaun. We haven't seen that guy. But when you take a year, 2 years off from playing football, getting acclimated isn't always guaranteed. It's not always guaranteed you get back in the groove of what you was doing before. You got Chubb coming off of a devastating injury. Also, he re-injured the same knee that he had injured in college, so he's coming back off that. We don't know what Chubb we get. You know what I mean? You do got Amari Cooper, who's a solidified receiver in this league, who's going to get you some good targets. He's going to play some good football. But Jerry Jeudy is still a question mark. Like I know people want to say they improved the wide receiver room so greatly. But I don't know what Jerry Jeudy really brings to the table. I haven't seen him unlock what people said he had coming out of Alabama. I just haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen Jerry Jeudy be a wrecking force when he was with the Broncos. Now, yes, get granted, he did have some bad quarterback play, but even when he had good quarterback play and he was getting the ball, he had a drop problem. Like he wasn't holding on to the rock. And the key in football being a receiver is catching the ball. And I don't know if he's going to do that at a high level for Deshaun Watson. I don't know if you know if he's going to do that all season. Can it happen? Yes, for sure. He has the potential to be a good receiver. He just got to buckle down and treat it like business. I think they're tight end. Njoku, I think he's really good. He showed last year, going down the stretch when Joe Flacco needed a guy to go to, that he was able to get the job done. And that defense, listen, that defensive line, them cornerbacks, I think no joke. They play well. They play well all around the board. So we're gonna see what Deshaun Watson brings to the table. But from what I've seen the two times he's had the opportunity to play, and yes, he hasn't played a complete season. He's been hurt. He got suspended, but it didn't look good. Like I don't care what you look at and tell me, oh, he won the game. If I can go out there and throw 169 yards and one touchdown and win the game. I mean, you didn't pay him that money fully guaranteed for him to come out and give you subpar quarterback play. So I think that's the biggest question mark for them. I think the second biggest question mark is probably Chubb. Um, so we're gonna see what they can do, man. But the Browns at 12.
I mean, for me and the Browns, like actually, like they didn't have a first round pick, but like their draft was actually pretty good. They drafted the D tackle out of Ohio State, Michael Hall, who I think is going to be a good player. Zach Zenner, the guard out of Michigan, who a lot of people were high on. Like I had him as one of the best guards in the draft. So they got him in the third. They also got Jamari Thrash from Louisville, the wide receiver, who a lot of people were high on, and they are needy at that position. And so yeah, like Jerry Jeudy, like I'm not as down on Jerry Jeudy as like if he doesn't have to be your X wide receiver, your number one, then I'm fine with it because the thing about the Browns, like they have Amari Cooper, so you're slotting Jerry Jeudy next to Amari Cooper, which I think that would be good for him. But it's like you said, my issue with their offense is the quarterback and the running back. The quarterback, I mean, Brown fans have this hope that he's like, I mean, he's going to be this savior and get them to the, like they'll finally win a division and they'll get to the playoffs and get to the Super Bowl. But what we've seen out of Deshaun Watson, the 2 seasons he's been with the Browns, has not been good. And like sometimes when you're out of football that long, it's hard to get back how you used to play. And we were kind of seeing that. And and with my boy Chubb, I mean, yeah, it's that same knee that he hurt at Georgia in college. And it's a bad, like the injury he got last year was a bad injury. Like he got hurt like I think week 3 or 4 of the season. They don't even know if he's going to be ready to start the season. That's how bad that knee injury was. So
I seen him running though. I seen him that the first media day of OTAs. He wasn't with the team, but I guess they got like a second story in they workout facility, and he was doing wind sprints up and down. Basically like the whole practice.
Start week 1. I mean, I'm just taking what I hear from Brown.
Nah, that don't mean nothing.
Yeah, like Brown fans is like they don't even know he's going to start week 1. They don't even know that.
No, that's what they were saying on the video I was watching. Like it looked good that he's running, but they still don't think he'll be clear by week 1. They think he's going to be back to like week 4.
But I mean, the one good thing about Cleveland is the strong point of their offense is the line. Like their line was really good, even though they had a lot of injuries on the line last year. I think Jack Conklin, I think he tore ACL last year, and then I mean, like lucky for them that they drafted DeJuan Jones at Ohio State last year. So I mean, he filled in for Conklin. I mean, pretty good. So as far as their offense goes, like their line is, that's not a question mark at all. Like they're, I mean, I guess the only question mark about the line is that Bill Callahan left and went to the Titans. And so, like, Bill Callahan is one of the better offensive line coaches in the league. So you kind of got
to line coach.
Yeah, because his son got the job in Tennessee, and then he went to coach under his son. So yeah, so he's in Tennessee. So that might be a little bit of a concern, but I mean, I think the Browns will be fine. I mean, like the Browns over the last couple of years have really had a good offensive line. So I think they'll be all right. Defensively is kind of what you said. Defensively. At home, they are juggernauts. On the road, they are not. They are quite the opposite. So I think Jeff Schwartz has to kind of figure out how to make some adjustments of when they play on the road and kind of get those splits down. I mean, normally most defenses aren't as good as, home versus road. That's just most defenses, but like their splits last year was just egregious. So I mean, like the coach got to figure out a way to kind of close those splits a little bit. But yeah, I mean, defensively, I expect them to be really good defensively. Offensively, it's the quarterback and it's the quarterback and the running back. Like those are my questions.
Yeah, the running back depth that they have right now is Jerome Ford, Donta Foreman, and Naheem Hines. And I I I think they can do some work. Ford has been productive for them. But Chubb is the bell cow, and I don't know how his loss will affect that running back room. And some Browns fans, I think, aren't being honest about the expectations of Deshaun Watson because you don't pay a quarterback all that money and not expect to make a deep playoff run, if not a Super Bowl run. And his play has to be a lot better this season for him, for that team to get to where they want to be, which is in the playoffs. And I think they potentially have. I like Judy with the Browns. I think he needed a fresh start out of Denver. And him not being the one, I don't think he was the one in Denver, but let's just say he was. I think that'll
I mean,
help
he was
him.
brought there to be the one. He just didn't. He didn't have the potential to
Yeah,
be the
he
one.
just
So
didn't.
Sutton ended up having to be the one.
Yeah, and I think not having that pressure on him will make him a better wide receiver than we have. I don't know if that will fix his drop issues. I don't know how you fix that, but hopefully we can see a better Jerry Judy that we have seen moving forward. And I think the road defense, that's something that they have to fix, especially if you want to make a run in the playoffs. You have to get that together.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because if you're not guaranteed the number one seed, you're gonna be playing on the road.
yeah.
But hey, man, shout out to Stu for being a honorary member of the podcast for a month. He got a question for all three of us. He said, what player would you most like to see in 2024 from your teams personally?"
I mean,
Uh,
should I go first? I mean, for me, I got two players. So I've got Javon Baker and I got Christian Gonzalez. I mean, those are really the two guys that I'm looking for. Christian obviously didn't play the whole season last year, but when he did play, he was really good. And Javon Baker was one of my favorite wide receivers coming out the draft. So I just kind of want to see exactly what he does. And it kind of, I mean, he's been talking a lot, so I'm kind of waiting to see what he does.
for me, it's A.T. Perry.
Hey.
Yo,
Hey, I needed that laugh. I ain't gonna lie. That would caught me off guard too.
yo, my niece is something else, bruh. But now for me, it's A.T. Perry. He showed great flashes when he did get time to play, and I want to see what he does this season under our new offensive coordinator. And the other player, I'm gonna just be honest, Derek Carr. He like I need to see what this man looks like. I already know what he's shown me since he's been in the league, but I need to see what he like what he's gonna look like under Clint Kubiak because our team can only go as far as he play as well as he plays. And if he doesn't play well, I'm gonna tell y'all now. I have us going 7-10 at the low, 9-8 again as the high. And that's just honestly how I feel with Derek Carr at the quarterback position. I just don't see us really making a push, especially in the NFC. I just don't see that right now for us. But those are the two players that I have my eyes on for my team.
Why you had to specify rookie for me? That's messed up, dog. I got two players too. God damn it. God damn you, Stu. The first one is Saquon Barkley, and second is Quinyon Mitchell. I really want to see what Saquon brings to this offense. Like, I think him behind a great offensive line, I think we possibly could see the best version of Saquon we've seen since he's been in the league. And I think he's going to be as healthy as he can be while he's in the league. I think that's going to be one of the dynamic pieces of this offense. If he can get rolling and really get acclimated with the team, I think it's going to be one of those things where it's gonna be alert for everybody in participation that got to play the Eagles. But with Quinyon Mitchell, like seeing Bradbury play so bad last year, I'm in dire need of seeing good cornerback playing well. And from what I'm hearing so far, like Quinyon Mitchell is literally, out there performing well, even though he wasn't playing the starting corner yet. He's actually been playing with the second team. But Isaiah Rogers, I mean, he could be in that mix with me too. Like, even though he missed a year, like we picked him up off of that dang suspension. I think like he been playing cornerback one, and he been talking how J Mick talking about his guy been talking. Isaiah Rogers been talking some shit, dog. Hey, listen, the man been talking about locking people up this year. He told the NFL they don't know this because he ain't going nowhere. Uh, I was hey, listen, if it end up being like a position where like Isaiah Rogers, Quinyon Mitchell, and Slay is all on the field playing cornerback, you ain't gonna hear no complaints out of me. None. I've been begging for good cornerback play. Um, the only other thing like I've heard from like camp or whatever is they say Devin White look really good. And y'all know how I feel. Like I'm kind of down on how he ended his tender with the Tampa Bay. Like you can't just I'm done here. I'm tired. I don't want to be here anymore. You just give up. Like it just doesn't work like that. And that's gonna be a scar on your legacy forever. You quit on the team that you pretty much built your legacy with. Like I just don't understand how you do that. But to get and get benched. Like you didn't just quit and they left you on the field. No, you got benched and you got benched. Like you
Yeah,
quit and they
there's
benched.
been discontent between Devin White and the Buccaneers for at least 2 years now. Going into last season, it was about 2 years. He asked to be traded multiple times. He had cryptic messages about the team on Twitter. So the disconnect between him and the Bucks, that was just a long time in the making. And his benching kind of solidified that he was not going to be brought back. And that's why I think he will get a fresh start with the Eagles. Like I'm not gonna hold like what happened with Tampa Bay against him, um, unless he like proves that that's the player that he is in his
Fact.
final years with Tampa. But I'm gonna give him that fresh start with the Eagles, and hopefully he could be that linebacker that y'all need.
I mean, the one play it was only like two or three plays they talk about, but the one play they said like really stood out was like he was on one side of the offense of the defense, he on the left side. Saquon comes out the right side of the offense. He sprints, dashes to catch him, and he follows him up the sideline. And Jalen throws a dot, like literally a dot. And they said like he had to put his hand between Saquon and the ball and like knock it down. I'm like, oh, he ran.
I
What?
mean,
He covered.
maybe you just need to change the scenery. I mean, some players just need a change. After
Yeah,
being with a team for a certain amount of time.
But
yeah,
I was
and
kind of shocked that he played. Maybe like y'all said, the change he get a chance to be a leader. You know what I'm saying? Because most of our leaders are going out of the locker room, so he get a different perspective.
yeah, because in his draft class, him and Devin Bush ran the fastest times for linebackers in that draft. And so he has the speed. It's just like I said, it like I think he just needed a new home in the league. I honestly do. And so I think he'll probably be like I said, the linebacker that y'all looking for to help solidify that defense that y'all got.
So we're gonna get to the number 11 team. We have the Green Bay Packers. It's interesting, right? Because I kind of was like in my head, like, do we put them at 11? Should they be top 10? Because like, yeah, they was a young team that overperformed last year. You know what I mean? They was able to do some things we probably didn't expect with Jordan Love getting his first start. But it also is like a little watered down, right? Because if you look at like I'll pull it up. If you look at their last six opponents, I don't think any of them made the playoffs, and I don't think any of them was close, if I'm not mistaken. I just want to look at it real quick, but they got better on defense for sure. They did get better on defense. They brought in some new guys to solidify that defense. They got the best linebacker in the drive. I mean, they took Edrin Cooper. I mean, if he could show up for what I thought he was going to be, I ain't gonna knock him because he on another team. He gonna be nasty, and I really think. is that offense. I think they got 3 wide receivers in that room, but all of them have questions with health, output, and that's all you got. So when you're not healthy, when you're on the field, like Christian Watkins, I see him have some bonehead Quentin Johnson type drops, like really not in the game. And then you lost Aaron Jones, who I think, like, people might argue that Josh Jacobs is the better running back. I think Aaron Jones brings more to that offense than Josh Jacobs is going to bring. I think now AJ Dillon is going to have a bigger role in the receiving game because that's just not Josh Jacobs' thing. Like, yeah, he might catch a screen and go, but he's not going to be running wheel routes and all that, out there running in the slot doing crazy. No, he's not doing that. It's just not his thing. So I think that's going to be a big question mark. How do you compensate for your passing running back who's basically a dual threat not being in the offense?
I agree. I think they have a young wide receiver core that has been allowed to grow with Jordan Love in the league. I like Romeo Dobbs. He was a player that they had when Aaron Rodgers was still there, and I like his progression as a wide receiver. Christian Watkins is probably the X wide receiver right now, and his health is something that they need him to be healthy because when he is on the field, he does make some dynamic plays for them. Um, I do have questions about the offensive line. Um, I think it will be good. I just don't know how good it will be this year. That's something I'm going to be looking at, and watching out for. Um, Also, the loss of Aaron Jones, I think that is a big loss for them because he was that dual threat running back that they had for a long time. And replacing him with a talent like Josh Jacobs, I don't think it's a major fall off, but like you said, Smitty, there is some deficiencies in the pass catching game that Josh Jacobs has, but he is still a dynamic running back for them. And I
My
think
only
this is a
issue with
really
Pop
solid
was
team.
like how they gonna stagger the minutes. You know what I mean? Because you're gonna need AJ Dillon to take the receiving duties. You're gonna need Josh Jacobs to be the
Hmm.
runner. How do you mix them in where you don't just? I know they throwing. I know they're running because these two running backs in the game. That was my
Yeah,
question.
and that's something that they're gonna figure out because that's the thing that people like the Lions. You had Gibbs and Montgomery, right? And people are like, oh well, it wasn't a pass, but they figured out a way to use both those running backs in that system. And so I think that's something that the Packers are gonna have to figure out. But I think this is a solid team. I think they can make a push into the playoffs. Um, it's going to be a really competitive battle between them and the Lions this year in that division. I think those are two solid teams, and I don't really have too many questions or concerns about the Packers. It's really just the growth of that wide receiver core and the health of it because I think their tight end, I can't, his name is slipping my mind. He went down with injury as well, so like it's just the health of that wide receiver core for the Packers. Will it last throughout the season? Because I think the health of that position will really determine how far the Packers go in the season.
Yeah, so I'm going next. The Green Bay was one of the youngest teams last year, and I mean, like they made the playoffs. They beat the Cowboys in pretty convincing fashion. So I think a lot of Packers fans are expecting a lot from the team. I mean, when it came to the draft, they took Edgerrin Cooper, like we said. They also took Jordan Morgan out of Arizona, who's going to be a tackle. It's going to give them more tackle depth. They drafted my other boy out of Georgia, my other safety, Javon Bullard, and I think he's going to be a good. I think he's going to be a good piece for them in terms of depth. They also drafted Marshawn Lord at USC, like the running back. Now I necessarily don't agree with the take that Josh Jacobs is like a downgrade because honestly, I had to look at the numbers, and the numbers show that Josh Jacobs had more receiving yards um than Jones did last year. Like, and you can even look at the last 2 years. He's had more receiving yards than Aaron Jones over the last 2 years. So I don't necessarily think that they're missing out much in the pass catching game with signing Josh Jacobs. I just think Josh Jacobs is younger. I can't say he's more explosive because they both could take, I mean, like the thing about Aaron Jones and Josh Jacobs, if you hand them the ball and the hole is there, they can take it to the house. I mean, they're both capable of that. I mean, there are things that Josh Jacobs does better than Aaron Jones, and there's things that Aaron Jones doesn't mean better than Josh Jacobs. So I mean, it goes both ways. I mean, I just don't think it's that much of a drawback. Now, when you go to wide receiver, their core is pretty young and it's pretty good. My concern is Christian Watson. The last 2 years, he's hurt that hamstring repeatedly. And so he got to prove to me that he can stay healthy. I mean, he's literally he's their de facto X wide receiver. But if he keeps getting hurt, I mean, like they have other guys. I mean, like they got like Romeo Dobbs and they have Jaden Reed and they have what's his name? Bo Melton and they have Dontavian Wicks. So I mean, they got other pieces that they can depend on in terms of wide receiver. Now, the line, I don't really have any questions about the line because like the line, the majority of the line was there last year. I think they're replacing one or two pieces off that line this year. So and they're pretty young. They're all under 26. So I think they'll be good there. Tight ends are also young with Luke Musgrave and Kraft. Both of those guys, I think Kraft was the guy that missed a couple games, and I think they're going to get a lot more out of Luke this year. Defensively, I think they're really strong defensively. So I don't really have any issues defensively. Like their front seven is good. As long as Jair is playing well, then I don't really have any issues. And I think they're actually spotted right where they should be at 11. Not to say that they can't hop into the top 10 during the season. I think they very well could. But I think like in the preseason or like the pre-training camp time right now, I think 11 is just fine with them. And also the quarterback Jordan Love, like he's literally in a contract year. He's trying to sign a new deal. So I'm not sure if he's going to take that deal before the season goes or during the season, but I anticipate that Jordan Love is going to have a good season. I mean, he threw for 30 touchdowns last year, so I expect him to do something similar to that.
I think it's going to be an interesting outcome for the Packers, man. Like, because they were so young, you kind of want to look at like, okay, can they do it again? Because, I mean, the sophomore slumps and all those things are real. So, like, did the team overachieve? Can they follow up on what they did last season? Because, I mean, what they did last season was, I mean, obviously eye opener to a few people, but you also look at it. I did go look at those teams they played down the stretch, right? Chargers, they beat the Chargers. Obviously, they had to play the Lions, Chiefs, Giants, Panthers, Vikings, Bears. Like three or four of those teams' defenses is kind of crazy, but I think they did well. But like in the beginning of that season, they struggled with some teams, so maybe they're able to catch some fire from last season and build off of what they brought in. But we really gonna see what they got.
And I think the issue was their division.
I think they do have a good team, though.
Yeah, I think the division is an issue for all these teams because the division is going to be strong. Because you got the Lions at the top who won last year, then you got the Packers who made the playoffs.
I'm getting trolled right now. In the middle of the show, I'm getting trolled in the comments, dog.
Yeah, I think that might be an issue for the Packers, just the division, because you got a lot of strong teams. Chicago trying to come up and be a playoff contender. Then you got the Vikings who got JJ McCarthy as a quarterback, but they still got Jettis and Addison, and the defense. They added pieces to the defense who was already good last year. So I mean, the division could be pretty tough, and that's the only factor that might have the Packers not having as good a season as they had last year.
Yeah, agree. Because if Caleb Williams performs like we think he can for the Bears, I don't like you can have a three-headed race. And then if JJ McCarthy shows us what type of quarterback he is, that's a tough division to try to come out of. Like, I don't think that's just going to be an easy division for the Lions to repeat as division winners or the Packers to easily contend as the winners. That's just going to be tough.
That's a fact.
Hey, if that's the real Dan Sileo, right? If that's the real guy, I don't know if that's the real. It's probably a stand account. If you ever want to do a podcast, I'm willing to go to war behind the Eagles. This is not an Eagle podcast right now, so I'm not gonna go to war with you right now because I'm enjoying talking about other teams because I still have to rate my own team somewhere here. So whatever you got going on in the comments, I know you're lonely and bored at this moment. So right now, we just gonna say if you ever want to podcast, 4133 podcast is full Philadelphia Eagles, brother. I have a Twitter that you follow me on. You can always hit my DMs, and yeah, we can go at it. But right now, it's not necessary. But I mean that concludes the today's power rankings, man. As you see it, I put it out on the podcast. I put it out on the podcast page. If you follow us on Twitter, um, as you can see, man, we finna go into the top 10. So, I mean, these teams that we going into now, we basically saying that they're some of the top teams in the league. I mean, it's an opportunity for all these teams to move around. We don't put anybody in a permanent spot. If your team perform, we have no problem as a podcast coming back, moving your team around and saying we was wrong. I mean, if Carolina somehow made the playoffs, we would come back and say, hey, look, we had them 32, we didn't see it. They proved us wrong. I mean, anything can happen.
But I mean, just
because your
disclaimer,
team won, don't mean you're going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but there's a disclaimer, like we'll be doing another power rankings right before the season starts too. So I mean, so yeah.
You
So
can
yeah,
easily move.
yeah. So I mean, like we're ranking teams at these spots now, but that's not seeing training camp, not seeing preseason games, injuries or whatever. So trust, we are definitely doing another power rankings right before the season starts.
For sure.
Yeah, so I
Yeah,
mean,
but
it
I
ain't
mean,
that
like
far
top
away.
10 is where it get kind of tricky. This is where it get tricky. This is where you're gonna hurt people's feelings. So
Yeah, man. Somebody not gonna like where they at.
Yeah, this top 10, yeah, this
it's gonna
yeah,
get tricky.
Somebody not gonna like it.
yeah, it's gonna get crazy.
Y'all got anything for
But
the
it is
people
what
before
it
we
is.
before we get to our voting cycle? Because we gotta vote real quick. So anything we got for the people before we get out of here?
Nah, just thank you for continuing to tap in with the show. Tell a friend, and we'll see y'all next week.
I mean, pretty much the same, man. Pretty much, thanks for joining us. And we having fun, with the whole power rankings thing. And I mean, like football, I mean, it's gonna be here before you know it, man. So I mean, tune in, man.
Yeah, man. If you have not yet, man, check the CheckDown podcast, CheckDown_NFL on Twitter. Y'all tap in. That's why I post them at every Saturday when we finish the last team. I posted up to give everybody opportunity to comment if you weren't able to make it over to the YouTube side and you was on the Twitter side. I do repost it also on my page. Everybody here is gonna repost it on their page. But tap in with the CheckDown podcast, man. We're gonna try to do some interesting things with that Twitter platform once we get the season started and get more things coming in, because sometimes repetitive conversation isn't the best. We already talking about it all day with your friends and people that are already associated with your organization. But we're gonna try to do some things to get people involved, so we can figure out more about teams and things of that nature. Because obviously it's 4 of us, but we not covering 8 teams apiece. We doing our best, but we could use your input as a fan, to give us some more insight of what's going on with your team. Because if you hear us every week, you know what I'm saying, we come up and we'll tell you we are going off of what we've heard and the minimum amount of research that we can get off the media that we believe is true. So the fan base is a big part of the success of the podcast. And so if y'all tap in with the check down, give us feedback. We would love to interact with the people that interact with us every Saturday. With that being said, man, we're gonna get up out of here.
See you next week.
Love,
man.
peace, and hair grease.